Finding problems? That's easy. They exist in every community. I'm Terry Springs, your host. We're looking deeper, and we are talking solutions, finding out how we all can make a difference. Today on Talking Solutions, the Nevada Donor Network, and in studio with us, Kelly Little. Glad to have you here.
Thanks so much, Terry. So glad to be here.
Well, really nice of Raquel to set this up for us because I know I have not in the past had the Nevada Donor Network in, and it's very important here for everybody with Beasley Media Group because someone in our extended family has been a recipient of an organ donation.
Wow, I did not know that.
Nevada Donor Network seems a little bit self-explanatory, but what are you guys all about?
We have a lot of moving parts, basically. With organ, eye, and tissue donation, it can be kind of a complicated process. So some people think they know everything about Nevada Donor Network, but we have a lot of stuff going on. Essentially, our mission is to maximize the gift of life and health through organ and tissue donation. People have usually heard of organ donation. Tissue donation, not so much.
Yeah, me too on that. The tissue donation, I'm like, wow, what's that all about?
It's incredible. I mean, skin donation, cornea donation, bone donation, those make a true difference in people's lives. Organ donation saves lives. Tissue donation can save and heal lives.
And I guess we've all on the news heard about things like bone marrow transplants.
Indeed. Yeah, that's a little different than what we do with bone donation. I mean, it can help out people who are, needing a dental implant, things like that. Skin donation can help burn victims and people coming back from overseas. All kinds of amazing, amazing things.
So you've actually branched out. And I would imagine technology and advances in medicine have made that possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're finding new ways to utilize tissue and help people, help them get a better quality of life.
Tissue might come in handy for someone who has been a burn victim.
Absolutely. Yeah, burn victims, people coming back from overseas, war veterans who may have suffered a debilitating injury.
How long has the Nevada Donor Network been in existence?
Great question. We've actually been established since 1987. I would say we're actually a fairly new company, though. In the last few years, we've made some really big changes. We've been trying to do a better job of getting out there in the community and educating people, making sure that they truly understand what organ, eye, and tissue donation is and how important it is for them to register as a donor.
In the past, you know how you flip over your driver's license and you look and there's a little organ donation kind of...
Little red heart.
Yes, exactly. It's not as simple as just signing the back of a driver's license and saying, I'm good. If anything happens, go ahead, take what you need. I won't be here anyway. There's more to it than that. Just signing off and saying I'm an organ donor does not mean you are one.
Correct. Yeah, that's actually one of those really big misconceptions that we hear a lot out in the community. People are a little bit afraid to have that red heart on their driver's license because they think that if they get in a car accident or something, they won't get saved. The paramedic's going to see that they're an organ donor and not try to work as hard, which is not the case. That's not even how we would check if someone's in the registry. We actually need to look into the database, and that's something only Nevada Donor Network can do. So I would say that the driver's license is kind of a show of support more than anything. That's not how we know that someone's registered. It could be an expired driver's license. Who knows what the case might be?
Well, I wonder if maybe part of the reticence of having on your driver's license that you are a organ donor participant, could part of it be that we're just all in denial that any kind of need for this might ever exist in the first place, and we're just going, no, I'm not going to think about that right now.
Absolutely. It's one of those taboo topics. Everyone's really afraid to talk about it. No one wants to think about, not being here anymore. This is such an amazing place to be, and people love being in the world, and it's a really hard thing. So it doesn't end at just registering either. Really talking with your family about this is very, very important. Whether you want to register or not, if you're against donation, talk to your family about that. If you're for donation, tell them that. It's really important because they need to know these things, and we need to have these conversations before something tragic happens.
It's funny because a lot of the conversations, the topics that we face on Talking Solutions on the show, we end up discussing a lot of things that in the initial stages are a little bit touchy.
Sure.
But then you get into it and you say, well, end of life is part of life.
It is.
And we want all the best for the people that we love. And keeping our family in the loop when it comes to an important topic like organ donation is crucial. Because if they're not involved, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, right?
Right. I've been sitting here nodding my head with everything you've been saying. Really, that family component is kind of the component that gets missed. People think that they just register, it's their decision, end of story. But, when something happens, we are having to reach out to these families to get a medical social history. And we want the family to be in the loop and understand the process and, really make sure that we're honoring their loved one's wishes.
It's an important part. That communication is key.
Sure.
let's say a person decides that they would be open to organ donation. Mm-hmm. They're not going to need them at this point anyway.
Correct.
But someone has decided that they are open to the opportunity, should I say, for donating their organs when they don't need them anymore. What steps do we take? Because we've already mentioned that just signing off with the driver's license is not enough to make it happen. What do we do?
Correct. So the easiest way, I would say, is through the DMV. You can absolutely register there. It's very important, though, that when you go back to renew, that you still mark yes, that you want to remain on the registry. But, because we're only going every 8 years now, it can be a while before you go back to the DMV. So let's say someone didn't register and has changed their mind since. They maybe learned some more about it and they want to register today. You don't have to go to the DMV. You can go online anytime, nvdonor.org. And you just click the Be a Hero link and you can get registered in 2 minutes or less. It is so simple, very basic information just about, your address, your birthday. You can make a limitation on what you would and would not like to donate, and it's as easy as that.
Well, when you talk about what you can donate, what's the possibility? One donor, I've always heard that when a child passes, mm-hmm. that their parents will say, yes, we really want to share the gift of life with other children. And their donations end up benefiting multiple kids.
Oh, yeah. You hear about that all the time. So one organ donor can actually save up to 8 lives through organ donation, but through tissue and cornea donation, like we talked about earlier, you can enhance the lives of 50 or more people.
You're kidding.
You're talking a huge number of people. It's incredible.
Wow, you want to make a difference in the world?
That's the way to do it.
There you go. That would be an incredible legacy. On the website, you mentioned Kelly Little is with us today from the Nevada Donor Network on Talking Solutions. And of course, we're talking about organ donation, tissue donation. You mentioned the website a moment ago if someone wants to get signed up, nvdonor.org. Also a place, I would imagine, where you can get a lot of information.
Oh, sure. Yes. If you're kind of on the fence about it, not so sure, maybe just need to learn a little bit more about the process or what can be donated, absolutely visit nvdonor.org and you will be so educated about the topic. You could probably teach us a thing or two.
Well, it would be good for us to all understand because I don't want the fear to interfere with anybody being a successful donor and helping someone else when they no longer need those organs.
Right. Most people do support organ donation, but here in the state of Nevada, we only have about a 40% registration rate. So we're really working hard to get that number up.
Actually, when I talk about things like blood donation, I know those donations are way low.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 5 or 6% or even lower than that. But as far as organ donation, you say 40%? Is it more than it used to be?
It is. It's going up, definitely. I mean, this is across the whole United States. We've got more people registered now than we ever have before, but we still have a lot of work to do because nationally we're still sitting pretty low. Most people do support organ donation in the 90 percentile range. And just unfortunately, a lot of people think that they don't have to register and, they can just support it. But it's very important to register too and make those wishes known and talk with your family about it.
So it is absolutely not okay for me to just mention to the EMT who's taking care of me as I'm checking out, oh, guys, by the way, if there's anything you need, you go ahead.
Exactly. Talk with that way beforehand. We don't want that to be one of those conversations that happens too little too late.
And a good place to start would be to look into the website at nvdonor.org. Kelly Little, you were talking about across the country that most people are in favor of organ and tissue donation. How does Nevada compare with the rest of the U.S.? I mean, I would imagine we know some stats like that.
Absolutely. We actually rank fairly low, unfortunately, and that could be due to a ton of different reasons. Most of those are just based on myths and misconceptions, though, that we hear regularly. Time and time again, we hear all these misconceptions about organ and tissue donation, and it's really just our job to make sure that people have the correct information and, get registered if it's something that they support.
And a couple of the myths that I think are the biggest things would be that you can just sign up or tell somebody and it'll be taken care of when necessary, and that they wouldn't work as hard to save me if they noticed that I was a potential organ donor.
That's the one we hear a lot.
Yes.
Or the other one we hear a lot too, is people thinking that they're too old, either thinking that because they have a certain health condition or because they're of a certain age that they don't have anything useful. And you just never know. The oldest organ donor was in their 90s. You just never know what can be donated. And it depends on who's on that waiting list too.
Yep. How do you fund your activities?
That's a great question. We're Medicare funded mostly, and we're always looking for contributions from the community. So you can do that on our website as well. If you're interested in making a monetary contribution, that's also available at envydonor.org.
And perhaps in a situation like all of us here in the building, I told you here at Beasley Media that we had someone in our extended family who was the recipient of a liver donation and a transplant. And because we've been so close to it, we might be more likely to say, this is a charity that I want to remember. This is a charity that I would like to honor and thank with a donation, or the ultimate donation, saying that I would also like to be an organ donor or a tissue donor.
Absolutely.
Do you have different kind of fundraising events or informational events where you try to get the word out about the Nevada Donor Network?
I would say the invaluable part of what we're trying to do, of course, monetary donations and contributions assist us, but ultimately, we just want people to register. We want people to make that decision and share that decision with their families. And then, of course, if people are interested in the cause, we're always encouraging them to join our Advocates for Life program, which is an incredible group of volunteers, whether they're a recipient of an organ, tissue, or a cornea transplant, whether they're a donor family, a supporter, everyone's welcome. If this is a cause that you really feel strongly about, join that program. And it's really like a family. They are so close to one another, and they really take care of each other.
What do your volunteers do?
They are out in the community spreading the word about donation and why it's important, encouraging people to register. They're at all kinds of different places. They go to health fairs, they go to schools, they are all over the place.
I would imagine that a great time to start talking about organ donation and tissue donation with the Nevada Donor Network is when kids are first getting their driver's license.
Sure. Yep. Making sure that they understand that question. A lot of kids, when they're going to get their driver's licenses, they're not sure what they're being asked. They're like, what's organ donation? And we never want that. We want them to understand what that question's asking, and we want to make sure that they're sharing whatever their wishes are with their family.
Plus, at that age, they're indestructible, so it's not like that would ever become an issue.
Exactly. We hear that a lot. Kids really don't think that it's a possibility. And too often you hear about kids who are tragically lost. And it's really important that they understand what that question was asking, because they could go and live on and save a life.
It's really sad when a life ends at such a young age.
Sure.
Even infants. You've got to have needs and donor request lists for very small
infant babies,
premature babies, infants, toddlers, kids.
Yeah, heart valves can be donated. So oftentimes with very young donor heroes, we do see that heart valves can save other babies' lives. And we hear from these donor families that it was not necessarily an easy decision, but they went through such a tragedy that they don't ever want another family to have to suffer through that same thing.
That makes perfect sense. And you mentioned a moment ago that a lot of times the age of the donor and the recipient don't have to be a match.
Right.
So even if you need something for a smaller child, can it be an adult-type donor in some situations?
Absolutely. It would depend on what's being donated. But even from adult to adult, the stature of the person and things like that are taken into consideration. But ultimately, it's that organ size. So someone who's much larger than me may have a heart that's too large for my chest cavity, and my heart might be too teeny tiny to power their body. So those kinds of things are taken into account.
Do you have a central location where they have a database where they keep track of things? Because you always see on TV shows, where this is a big dramatic kind of medical moment. We've got the heart and it's in an ice chest and we got to get it there in 4 hours. So is there a central kind of a data processing facility or some central location where all of this information is disseminated?
Absolutely. Who houses that list is considered UNOS, which is the United Network for Organ Sharing. And that's the list that we're kind of looking to. So when we have a donor candidate and we're looking for a match, we're contacting and reaching out through UNOS's list and finding that best possible match. So some people have some questions about the waiting list. They really think it's like a ranking. It's a line-by-line item. And I wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. I would think of it more as like a pool of people who are all waiting for this life-saving gift. And they are looking for the best possible match within that pool. So just because you're, number one on the list doesn't necessarily mean that that organ that's become available is a great match for you. So it might go to the next person down on the list. They're looking for the best possible chance of success.
Absolutely. So that they make it through the surgery and they go on to have additional years added to the end of their lifespan.
Yeah, this is such a gift that they really want to make sure that they're cherishing it and it's going to the person that's going to be most successful with that organ.
Absolutely. And with all of the medical procedures that are required for an organ transplant, we're specifically talking about that at this moment as opposed to the tissue donation. It's the Nevada Donor Network that we're talking about today. With all of the medical procedures, I know there's a lot of stuff that comes with that. Our friend related with Beasley Media who had the liver transplant, I know that she had all kinds of non-rejection transplant kind of drugs and all of the therapies that they have to undergo. It's not a simple process.
It's definitely not. And I know that our transplant center here, University Medical Center, does an amazing job with kidney transplants and making sure that people really understand the process. And other transplant centers around the country do the same thing, making sure that these patients really know what they're getting into, understanding that this is truly a gift and they understand everything that's involved.
Dedicated people who help make it happen.
Certainly.
It's funny, we've been running public service announcements, which of course as radio stations we do. We've been running a campaign for organ donation. And one of the things that comes out in their pre-recorded spot is that a lot of people are on the donor list and some people don't make it. And specifically, they may die existing on that list waiting for a kidney.
Right. We have about 22 people in this country who pass away while they're waiting for their gift of life.
And I had a friend's brother, someone else who I knew a few years ago. He did not make it. He was waiting for a liver transplant.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's a sad fact of life.
It sure is.
Not everybody on the transplant list makes it to the point where you can actually make a match.
Indeed.
Kelly, do you know any kind of an idea? How many do we have on lists? Because I imagine we've got a lot of different lists going on here.
We do. So here in the state of Nevada, we have over 500 people who are waiting for an organ transplant. Nationally, you're looking at about 122,000 people who are waiting for that second chance at life.
And what is the most likely organ that they are looking for?
Kidney. Definitely kidney. Out of those 122,000 people who are waiting nationally, more than 100,000 of those people are waiting on a kidney transplant.
That's the big deal?
It's kidney.
I believe also, have always heard that as a donor, as a kidney donor, that you can donate one of your kidneys and still carry on with your other.
You sure can. Yeah, that's considered living donation. That's something that we absolutely encourage people to look into. And you know, it used to be that you could only donate to a family member, a blood relative, and that's not the case anymore. It actually can be a totally altruistic donation now. You don't even have to know the person. So there's actually been some really incredible stories in the media where you've seen people who, it's a chain of 20 people who end up donating. You know, maybe their loved one needs a kidney, but they're not a match. So they donate to someone that they don't necessarily know, but someone else donates to their loved one in return. Really amazing gift.
That pay it forward that we hear about at the Starbucks in the drive-thru. It's the same thing, but it happens to be with organ donation.
And it's something we can all do.
We're looking for a tissue match, or what is the compatibility?
With tissue, it's a little bit different. So there's not necessarily a waiting list for tissue donation, but it essentially goes through a tissue processor, and then they're looking for, you know, whatever facilities are in need of looking for tissue matches.
Let's say someone steps up and says, okay, I know that kidneys are what you're really looking for, that people really, especially here in Nevada, in our area, are looking for a kidney. I think I can help you out there. I've got 2 very functional kidneys, and I feel like this is how I can make a difference in this world. Perfectly willing to do that. What steps do I take? Do I start at the website at nvdonor.org? Do I tell my doctor that, you know, this may sound funny, but I really think I'd be willing to be a living organ donor?
I would absolutely encourage you. You can either visit our website at nvdonor.org. There is information about living donation there. We essentially would point you towards University Medical Center. If you live here in the state of Nevada, that's our transplant center. We're very close partners with them. They do facilitate living donation, and that would be an incredible gift to give to somebody.
People so don't know how many incredible things University Medical Center does.
Correct.
They hear about things like, well, it's the big county hospital and they've got to take in all the emergency. Yeah. They do so many great things. Organ donations help with that, with surgeries. They've got a burn center. They've got everything. It's really an amazing place.
They're an incredible partner for us, and they make sure that every time their transplant center is at any kind of community event that we're involved too, and we do the same courtesy because we're very close partners with them.
So that's the sort of thing also, if you decide that you would like to not only sign up as an organ donor candidate, but also volunteer, because someone in your circle has been the recipient of an organ donation?
You never know. It's amazing once you start that conversation. It's incredible how many connections there are that people really didn't know. We have volunteers who've told me time and time again, maybe they had back surgery, and all of a sudden when they go through training, they say, oh my gosh, I'm a tissue recipient and I didn't know it. A lot of people have no idea until they're coming through our training session for being a volunteer, and all of a sudden they realize they have multiple connections to donation.
Think about your own life and your own circle of acquaintances and experiences. You may have been the recipient of some wonderful donation to the Nevada Donor Network.
You sure might have.
Kelly Little is with us today from Nevada Donor Network. We're talking about getting involved. About 40% of people actually have done what they need to do to say, I'm in. If you need organs, tissue, whatever I can do to help somebody else after I'm no longer needing them,
right,
I'm in. We're at about 40%. We can always up that percentage. And it would involve maybe starting with the website at nvdonor.org to get more information. Think about the people in your circle that really, I do have 2 people, both of them are no longer with us, but who were either a recipient of an organ donation or were on a waiting list, and because enough people haven't stepped forward, didn't make it.
Oh.
Because we all have that kind of circle, chances are you have been affected by groups like Nevada Donor Network. Talk with your family. If you're thinking about it, find out more about it. It's not that hard to do. It's not an unpleasant conversation. When I have talked with people with hospice, and we do bring in a lot of different topics for the show here at Talking Solutions, it seems like it's a hard thing to discuss when you first start,
right,
and then you start bringing the humor into it.
Absolutely.
And you realize that at the holidays when everybody gets together, that you could sit down and you could go, you know what, I realize chances are really good that I won't be here 300 years from now. So because of that, I might as well tell you what I would like.
Totally agreed.
Your final wishes can be very pleasant to discuss.
And it's such an important thing to discuss. You just don't want to end up in a situation where it's a surprise. It's one more decision that a family is having to make at that point. You know, when they've already lost a loved one, they're going through the worst time in their life. That's the last thing they want to have to consider is, would they or would they not want to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor?
You can not only give the gift of organ or tissue donation to somebody else, you also give an incredible gift to your family by making those decisions and letting them know that this is what you would wish to have done. And so when that situation comes up, they're not worried about that on top of everything else.
Absolutely. Just gives them peace of mind. It takes one thing off their plate.
We're looking ahead. April is Donate Life Month. Do you have any special things lined up?
We sure do. April's a huge month for us. This is really something that we make a year-round effort to promote organ, eye, and tissue donation. But when it comes to April, we try to really get the community rallied behind this. And we try to get people supporting organ, eye, and tissue donation on social media, out in the community. You're going to see us out with the Las Vegas 51s. We do a partnership night where it's Donate Life Night. It's just a really great month to really get the community excited about this. Like you said, it can be a tough topic, but it's something that people can be really happy and excited about too. It's an amazing gift.
Once you relax into it and you realize you can have fun with it, it changes the whole dynamic.
Absolutely. It changes that conversation.
Becomes like family game night.
It sure is.
More than anything else, our friends, family, coworkers, the people in our circle, we love them. We want the best for everybody around us.
Sure.
But there are some tough possible times ahead, knowing that the unexpected is the norm.
Anything can happen at any time, and we never know when that time's going to be. So have that conversation with your family as soon as possible.
And you don't have to wait until April when it's Donate Life Month. Don't let the calendar dictate what you do. You could have that conversation at any point in time, and you could get yourself signed up to be an organ or tissue donor with the Nevada Donor Network. Kelly, we're going to have to make sure that during the month of April that we are doing public service announcements for you. We're going to have all kinds of good stuff up.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, we're going to help you spread the word. It's a very important topic.
You're leaving a legacy.
Letting other people live on.
Yeah, your loved one will never be forgotten. If you have a loved one that's been a donor hero, you can attest to the fact that their legacy lives on forever.
And you hear all of the time, when you take an organ and it is transplanted from a loved one, you have this bond forever.
Oh, sure.
Part of them is living on.
Absolutely. There's an incredible bond between donor and recipient, and even donor family and recipient. They feel so connected to whoever is essentially utilizing their loved one's organ because they're living on through them. We have volunteers that work with us that are transplant recipients. Maybe they're a heart recipient, and the donor family is so intrigued by holding up a stethoscope and listening to that heart beating in someone else's chest. And it's like their loved one is there again. They're still there.
Makes my heart swell. The gratitude that it inspires.
It's incredible. This is an amazing place to work. Nevada Donor Network does some incredible things, and I work with some of the most inspiring people. When we were out in Pasadena for the Donate Life Rose Parade, we actually ended up running into a family friend, and he was a donor hero. So it's really interesting when you start working in this industry. You don't think you have a connection, but maybe you do, or you end up having a connection later. So now I do have a personal connection. I was a very close family friend who lost a loved one, and he was also honored on the Rose Parade float.
I saw that float. I was watching the parade.
Oh, good.
It was near the front of the parade, if I recall.
It was. It sure was.
Yeah. Nevada Donor Network. It sounds like just a feel-good place.
It is.
It's a topic that some people are a little frightened of.
Nothing to be afraid of.
Just make sure that your family is well informed and that you've done what you need to do to donate organs or tissues and let your life carry on.
Sure.
nvdonor.org. If you want to check the website, by the way, I'll have all the links on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with a podcast of today's discussion. Kelly Little, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.